Hello, everyone. We just did some updates to Amazon Q Developer here in Las Vegas, launches at reInvent, and I want to talk about them a little bit. So we launched three new agents for Q Developer: an agent for unit testing, an agent for documentation generation, and an agent for doing code reviews. And I was reading through Corey Quinn's live Skeet thread on Blue Sky, and he said, I'll make a deal. When Amazon Q can take this application and deploy it repeatedly to AWS Lambda and do the right thing, I'll revisit it. So this interested me because I think it's really close to being able to do that, if not already. And so I asked him, do we have any example specs for a starting application language framework? Let's try this out. And he gave me a project here and said, ignore the SAM stuff. So I can look at this project and I see that it has a SAM config and a template. So it technically probably already deploys to AWS Lambda. I think if we ignore the SAM stuff, I can delete that out of there. And let's see if we can get QDeveloper to regenerate that and actually deploy this project properly to AWS with generative AI. Okay, so I did one run through this just offline without recording. Let's see if I can actually get the same results again. This is the magic of generative AI. So I have reset the repo back after I made modifications to it. So I'll close this out. I'm going to delete these two files because I don't want to make it too easy on the AI. It needs to be able to do stuff on its own. I'll take this opportunity to show off some of the new features as well. So let's do first /doc. Press enter to continue, and we're going to create a new README because this README is a little bit minimalistic. I like to have as much detail as possible in the README for projects because detail in the README is something that an AI agent can actually benefit from. It can learn about the project from the README, and that will help it generate better code. So generating a higher quality README will actually improve the results for everything else that we do today on this demo. So this is going to be a little bit interesting. Now, while this is happening, I'm going to open the skeetbot.py file, and I'm going to say /test to kick off unit test generation for this project. This will be interesting to see what it finds. And it's still generating documentation over here. And still working over here. Okay. So I'm going to wait for it. So in the background for this README generation, it has created a knowledge graph. And this knowledge graph includes a lot of information about the project. So we can see that it's identified what this project is, an RSS feed to social media bot. And it has installation instructions. It's even identified some of the key things like the AWS credentials, the SSM parameter names that it depends upon, DynamoDB table, all kind of cool stuff. All right, so I actually like this. We even have a data flow diagram here showing how the data flows through this Lambda function we want to deploy. I'm going to go ahead and accept that. I want to add that to the repo because the agent will be able to benefit from that. Meanwhile, let's look at the test that it generated. So it generated 225 lines of code actually for only one of the methods process entry. So this is not ideal. I feel like it could have generated more unit tests for more of the project. There's obviously more in here. So I'm going to reject that. I'm going to say actually do it again. let's see what it does this time around. Let's see if it finds more. Oh yeah, there we go. It found more. I'm not really sure why it only found one method the first time around. So, I mean, this is obviously still a work in progress, right? And generative AI is a little bit, can produce different results on different runs. So, there's still some stuff going on here. And while this is going off, let me kick off also the /review. This is the code review thing that we tried, that we launched also today at reInvent. And let me do another one. I'm just gonna do it all in parallel. Like, this is the benefit of generative AI, is that I don't have to be working on only one thing at a time. So I'm gonna say deploy this to AWS Lambda using a SAM template. I'm going to say also include all resources. And let's see what it generates. Meanwhile, okay, we got the review going. I forgot to click something there, so we got the review going now. And it's going to review everything in the workspace. Meanwhile, let me check the test results over here. This looks much more thorough. Yeah, that's much more thorough. We now have 1,064 lines of unit tests. It's testing all kind of stuff like time formats. Should be testing errors. Let's see. Oh, it's testing rate limiting exceeded. That's kind of cool. Let me see. Error. Yeah, so it's testing rate limit exceeded errors. Quite a few different errors here. This is great. I like to have lots of error handling tests for any project. So very cool to see that. And very cool to see also over 1,000 lines of unit tests that I didn't have to write by hand. Okay, so the code review response has come back meanwhile, and it's found one critical issue. Let's see how critical that actually is. It claims that it's found hard-coded credentials, which I find unlikely. I don't think Corey would have hard-coded credentials. And sure enough, this doesn't look legitimate to me. It looks like it's getting environment variable, which obviously we know would be an SSM parameter, so it's not a hard-coded variable at all. So this is a little bit disappointing that it has found a false positive here on this hard-coded credential. But we do have other things here, which, let's see. Oh, this looks like it could be good. Using naive date time, whatever that means. Naive date time. Recommended way to create, it's preferred to use aware date times to represent times in UTC. Interesting. Recommended way to create aware date times representing a specific timestamp is passing a TZ info. Interesting. Okay, so we also found a global variable here. So this is an example of something where it's found something that's not necessarily a bug, but it's a kind of a code smell where a global variable could be the cause of a bug in the future. So it's not just analyzing actual serious security concerns, but it's also looking at code quality overall. Let's see what /dev has been working on meanwhile while I was doing all that. So it has a summary of its thoughts as it was working. The provided workspace shows a bot Python application. To deploy it using SAM, I need to inspect the code to understand dependencies, then create a SAM template and supporting files. So it's selecting code sections from the SAM template to look at the dependencies. It's finding all of them. So it's identified that it needs to add configuration for various things that are being referenced in that code. And then it says that I've completed all necessary configurations. It says that it's found everything it needs. So I guess we'll have to be the judge of that. Let's see. Expanding this looks like a SAM template. It's got that transform, AWS serverless transform at the top. It looks like it accepts some environment variables. It looks like, oh, look, cool. Even though I didn't tell it to do so, it's identified it needs to run this on a 15-minute schedule. It's attached some policies. It's attached a bunch of environment variables here. I do think there's something, this looks like a little bit of a hallucination here. It's saying AT-proto username. Pretty sure that was not what it actually was in the code. Yeah, it should be skeetbot username param, not AT. So I don't really know where it got that from. Does it say anything about AT here? No. Yeah. I'm not sure where it got AT username and app password from, because I don't see that in here at all. Password param, username param. Yeah. So there's a little bit of a hallucination there, but looking at the things that it did get right, it has the DynamoDB table that it's creating, and it looks like that's the right attribute. Let me see, good. Yeah, it looks like good is probably the key, entry.good. Yep, that's the proper key that's created for the DynamoDB table. It looks like it's passing in the DynamoDB table name. Is that the right environment variable? Dynamo table. Post table. No, it should be post table name. So we see a little bit of a mismatch here. the variable names that's passing in don't actually match what is expected here in the code. So that's not, that's not ideal. It doesn't look like it got this perfectly on the first try. So, it's a little bit of a miss there. I think it could have done better, especially since, it's a little bit disappointing because it looks like it properly found the right environment variable names here. But then in the diff here, when it generated this code, it didn't use the right variable names. So it's a little tiny bit of a miss. Let's try providing some feedback. Ensure that the env variable names match what readme.md says. Let's see if that works. And I can see that part of the problem here is that when it reviewed this project, you'll notice that it did not actually review the readme.md. So a little bit of a miss there as well. Like I did all that work to generate the README so that way the bot could make use of it. And usually it will. This time, for some reason, it didn't choose to actually read readme.md. If it had, then it would have had the right information about what environment variables to pass in and wouldn't have made up something here. So let's see if it can fix it itself automatically with a follow-up prompt here. It may be able to do so. Even if it didn't, if it wasn't able to, this template is at least 80% of the way there, I think. At least 80% of the way to what we would need to make this actually work. And it looks like it has the right policies for fetching stuff from DynamoDB. It has CloudWatch policies. It has the ability to pass in these things, even though it was passing them into the wrong environment variables. And let's see. Okay, SAM tunnel's been created. I need to verify the environment variables match. It's selecting relevant section of the readme.md and comparing. Based on the readme.md, the environment variables need to be updated. The readme mentions skibot username parameter and skibot password parameter and post table name, which don't match the current template. All right, it's identified its own error. Let's see if it'll fix it. It claims that it's done so. It says the SAM template is now complete with all required resources. Correct environment variables, and proper use of SSM parameters for sensitive data. The infrastructure matches all specified requirements. I'm very confident. There's one thing about generative AI, it can be very confident even when it's incorrect. So let's go ahead and verify this, and let's see what we got here. Okay, this is much, much better. You'll notice that it's still calling this AT proto username and AT proto password, which is kind of silly indeed, but it is at least passing these things through to the Lambda function properly. So I would call this a win. We had to do one follow-up, but everything in here does look like it will be correct, and if like it would work if I was to deploy this. I'm not actually going to try to deploy it for the purposes of this video, but you can see that I was able to do quite a bit in this project just over the period of time that I was working with it. I was able to generate more complete documentation here. I was able to generate tests, although I didn't actually accidentally didn't save them. And I was also able to generate a CloudFormation template with SAM for deploying to Lambda. So, I don't know whether this will please Corey Quinn or whether he'll consider that to be a win on on the deal. I know that Corey Quinn is an AI skeptic, but I hope that even he will be a little bit interested and impressed by what these models are capable of doing with the agent that Amazon Q Developer has built around these models. I know that I'm usually a little bit surprised sometimes by what it does, and it's kind of fun. And I hope that what you've seen today is also a little bit impressive, and will encourage you to try out Q Developer, whether you're Corey Quinn or whether you're someone else who happens to be watching this video. Q Developer is constantly changing and improving, not just the things we launched today at reInvent, but you'll find the Q Developer changelog over here. In some cases, there's almost like weekly improvements that are being launched. And so this is something that, even though there were a few glitches today where I wouldn't say it was 100% perfect on the first try, it was a high percentage of the way there to where I could finish it by hand if I really wanted to. And I'm confident that in another few months, maybe even 6 months at the max, it would actually get this particular task right from 0 to 100% perfectly the first try, because that's just how fast things are progressing. So anyway, thank you very much for watching this, and I hope you learned something, and I hope you go out there and try Q Developer for yourself. And whether you like it or not, please let me know what you think. Let me know what you hated about it, and I'll try to make Q Developer better. Let me know what you loved about it, and I'll try to share more videos like this about the exciting and cool things. Thank you very much.